My name is Alan Charles. I am 50 years old, divorced for 15 years, and well on my way to making my second career a rousing success. I was sitting in a riverfront cafe in Grand Rapids, Michigan, on a warm July afternoon when I spotted her. She looked 20 years older than her true age of 47. She was my unlamented ex-wife. My first thoughts were, oh crap, not her, not here. Then I thought, maybe I can get up and leave before she sees me. No such luck. She saw me. A look of questioning recognition came over her, and she started for my table. It was her normal behavior, regardless of how anyone else thought she barged ahead. As she approached, she attempted to give me a hug. I stopped her and said, "Sarah, I have a restraining order that I know was delivered to you. An asshole, as well as the police, are looking for you. So, you have 30 seconds head start before I call the police." She just stopped and looked like she was going to cry and said, "Can't we forget about all of that and just talk?" 20 seconds, and no, we cannot talk until you and asshole return the $15 million you stole from me. 15 seconds. I replied. She left in a hurry, but it was too late, as a patrolman just pulled up and got out of his car and heard me. He grabbed Sarah and brought her over to me and asked what was going on. "This lovely lady is my ex-wife, Sarah Wallace, or that was the name she gave me when we were married. She and the man she cheated on me with embezzled over $15 million from me and almost forced my company out of business. I would bet that if you ran a warrant check, you would find she is wanted on a federal interstate flight to escape prosecution warrant, as well as a summary judgment for $15 million plus interest and charges of bank, wire, and mail fraud. On top of that, her asshole lover and she are under a permanent restraining order to remain 500 yards from me or my place of business. She and the asshole came to my house and beat me so badly that I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and still can tell you when it is going to rain or snow 24 to 36 hours before it does. I want her away from here." I was raving by now. In my briefcase here is a copy of the restraining order and a signed receipt from her own hand, witnessed by her lawyer at the time. "Is that true, ma'am?" the officer asked. "The restraining order is true, but we did not steal any money. I was entitled to it because I was married to this man for 7 years. I also have a copy of the divorce decree and the prenup, which shows that she was not to have any part of my business. I knew I would run into one or the other of them, so I have carried those papers all this time." I continued. "This woman and I were married, and when I found her in our marriage bed with my vice president, I filed for divorce. I then discovered the theft of money from my company. They both left town just a few miles and minutes ahead of the FBI and then flew somewhere where the U.S. authorities could not get to them. I'm amazed she came back." "Ma'am, turn around and place your hands behind your back," the officer said, and when she did, he handcuffed her and told her he was taking her to the city lockup until this was all cleared up one way or the other. He then asked, "Sir, would you please follow me to the lockup?" "Sure," I said. "Let me pay for my coffee and I will follow you." I paid, and as I was walking to my car, I called my longtime attorney, Jack Collins, and told him to bring every piece of paper we had on Sarah. I met Sarah when the company I created after I left the Army was having a product show at a local hotel. I and several of my company officers were on hand to meet and greet, as well as answer questions. A young lady came up, said she was Sarah Davidson, and asked if we were looking to fill any specific positions in our company. When I asked what type of position she was looking for, she answered, "Ideally, I am looking to work in accounts receivable or payable, as my degree is in accounting." At the time, we had an outside accounts receivable or payable firm, but the contract was coming up for renewal. That company informed us they would not be bidding on a new contract, as we were too big for their present company size to do a complete job, and they did not want to get any bigger. I asked for her resume and any letters of recommendation she had. As she handed me a packet of papers, I asked, "Can you be bonded for several $1 million of liability?" She said she had been bonded in the past, but was not sure of the amount. I took her contact information and told her I would be in touch within the next 2 weeks. She got a sad look on her face and said, "If I am not going to be hired, just tell me now and don't blow me off until next week." Angrily, I responded, "Did I say you would not be hired? I said I will contact you within the next 2 weeks. If that is not satisfactory, here is your resume, pack it back." I held out her resume and then continued, "I will not hire someone for even the factory floor without checking references and contacting at least one of your former employers. Those things take time. The position I have coming open is a sensitive one, and I will be checking all of your references, your college, and contacting some of the people who gave you the letters of recommendation." I was a little put off by her thought that she would get an answer today. She apologized and mentioned that she had gotten the runaround from several companies before and just jumped to the conclusion that I was brushing her off. Well, as you can guess, we hired her, and she was appointed as manager of our accounts department. She was very good at her job for about 9 months when I received her resignation letter giving 2 weeks' notice. I went to her office and asked if there was a problem with the workplace or working conditions. She denied any problem except she wanted to date someone from the executive level of the company, and our strict non-frat policy would not let her do that. She added that she had another position that she was accepting in a non-competing company. I asked if the 2 weeks were etched in stone, and she said no, but 3 weeks is max, I said. "Well, I guess I will have to advertise for a new manager then. Please stay as long as you can. Is there someone in your department who you think could take over as a temporary manager?" she said. "Frank Wilson can not only take over as a temporary manager, but I told him to apply for the position as a permanent replacement for me." I said, "Okay, I will talk to Frank." I did, and I promoted him to the position. I regretted that decision later. I ran into Sarah a few weeks later on a weekend of food shopping. I offered to buy her lunch and have a chat. She accepted. We went to the mall food court for nasty pizza and coffee. I asked her about her new job, and she said she liked it, and that she did not realize how much work she was required to do at our shop until she took her new job. She said the new job is a snap compared to ours. I asked if she was dating anyone in our company, as that was the reason she gave for leaving. She just laughed and said with a smirk on her face, "You haven't asked for a date yet." To say I was gobsmacked is an understatement. Sarah was a beautiful, smart, and funny person, but I had not looked at her as dating material. I thought about it for a few seconds before saying, "How about a play next Friday? It starts at 8, and I can get tickets for either Friday or Saturday and can take you to dinner before or after the play." She said Friday was okay. That started 15 months of dating. I finally asked her to marry me. She said yes. The company attorney advised me to have a prenup in place. Sarah was a little peeved, so I said, "If you sign the prenup, I will set you up with a trust equal to 10% of the profits yearly for the term of our marriage. The only proviso is if we were to divorce for your adultery, you get nothing. If we were to divorce for my adultery, you get triple the amount contained in the trust. You will not have access to the trust for a period of 10 wedded years." She signed. We were married and had an exciting honeymoon. When we returned to normal life, we moved into a house I had purchased after my company had taken off. It was fully paid for, and I owed nothing on my company buildings or equipment. We seemed, to me, to have a very happy marriage. Children had been discussed, and the decision was delayed. We were not strong party people, but went to both companies' functions. 7 years after we were married, Sarah started to get distant. It was at a promotion party that I first noticed something hinky. Frank Wilson was being announced as the new vice president in charge of corporate finance. There were also several others who would be promoted that year. Sarah and I arrived a few minutes early, as I had a habit of doing. Sarah excused herself and went to the ladies' room. When she came back, she was stuffing something into her purse. About the time the bar was being opened, Frank and his wife arrived. Cocktail hour was a cash bar to limit corporate liability. I do not drink, as I discovered an affinity to alcohol that I could not control while I was in the military. On seeing Frank, Sarah deserted me. She went to him and basically pushed Frank's wife Mandy out of the way. I could see Sarah whispering something in his ear. Mandy looked lost. Let me describe Mandy. She was a pretty but extremely shy lady, about 5'5" tall and maybe 110 pounds. She was built and stooped, hiding her well-endowed breasts. Actually, shy is not an apt description. Imagine a mouse in a cage with the door on a timer in a room full of hungry cats. If she could find Discoverway, she would melt into the wall. I was sure that she was here only because of Frank's promotion. I walked over and Sarah separated herself from Frank like he was electric and she was standing in a puddle. Mandy looked up at me and smiled. She never seemed to be shy around me. Sarah looked guilty. The schedule of events for the party were cocktail hour, actually 30 minutes, dinner, presentations, and dancing. As CEO, I was in the center of the head table. Sarah was next to me, then 2 empty seats, and the rest of the officers and board of directors. The other arrivals were in sections by the department in a circular pattern surrounding the dance floor. The bar was closed on time and would reopen when the presentations were over. How she did it, I have no idea, but Sarah was half in the bag when dinner started to be served. When she went to sit down, she fell on her ass and ripped her dress. It was a very tight, short dress to begin with, but the rip showed that she had removed her panties. Now I knew what she was stuffing in her purse, and probably what she whispered in Frank's ear. I grabbed Sarah and marched her to the door, grabbed her coat, and had security call a cab and send her home. When the time for the promotions came, we announced the retirements first, then the new department heads, then Frank. All was smooth after Sarah's stupidity, and when the dancing started, Frank disappeared. Mandy was distraught. I walked over to her and asked where Frank was. He went to his lover, your wife. I have no way home, and Frank has told me if I don't make a fuss, he will give me a quiet divorce and leave. Then she started to cry. I grabbed Mandy and we left the affair. I started to take her to their home when she asked me to take her with me to my house. When we arrived, I blocked Frank's car so he could not get out. Then I let the air out of all of the tires on Sarah's car. She wasn't going to go anywhere in that car. When I finished outside, I took Mandy inside. We went quietly into the house and followed the trail of Frank's clothes to the bedroom. I had grabbed my digital camera off the dining room buffet and continued on to the master bedroom. Frank and Sarah were both unaware of us until I started to take pictures. Even though it was digital, it still made some noise, and the flash was very bright. It took 3 or 4 flashes before the lovers turned around. Frank was off the bed in a flash and tried to get out of the door when he saw his wife behind me. He wilted. Sarah just pulled the covers off of her and laughed. Look at the semen a real man can make. He is twice the man you are. I just shook my head and calmly said, Sarah, you have exactly 15 minutes to get dressed and call a cab to take you wherever you want to go. You are no longer my wife. If you are not gone by then, I will hand Mandy one of my golf clubs and let her have it at you. Frank, you're fired. You will not be allowed into the offices anymore. We will go through your office, and any personal property will be sent to wherever you want it to go. I turned to go to the living room, and Frank must have seen his chance. First, he cold-cocked his wife. 1 punch and she was out like a light. Then, before I could react, he gave me a headbutt that made me see stars and drove me to my knees. Then he started punching me. My lovely wife was not a passive bystander. She had grabbed a lamp from the bedside table and proceeded to beat me with it. The last thing I saw was the lamp coming down for the second time. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. Mandy had recovered and called 911. The ambulance and the police arrived at the same time. The police secured my house and the ambulance transported both Mandy and me to the hospital. While I was out of it, a manhunt was on for the 2 lovers. They were found and charged with attempted murder and assault. Both were also charged with spousal abuse. They made bail and disappeared. When I got back to work, the new accounting manager informed me of the missing money. I called the police again, and a warrant was issued for the two of them for embezzlement and conspiracy. I got the restraining orders, and Mandy and I both got quick divorces for abuse and adultery. Mandy clung to me to the point where I finally asked her to move into my spare bedroom. I had always liked her, and she seemed to be comfortable with me, so it was not a hardship for me. We lived like brother and sister, except we went out to dinner and plays and movies and such. She was, and still is, very good company. It took over a year, but the bonding agency finally restored the stolen money. The company was back on solid footing. About this time, a large competitor made an offer to purchase the company. The negotiations were long, but when they were over, I got a bucket of money, a golden parachute, and kicked out. At least I made sure that the employees were either guaranteed 5 years of employment or the equivalent pay. The competitor shuttered the place almost immediately. Everyone got paid, but it cost the bastards when we had to take them to court when they tried to file for bankruptcy for only that division. They lost and had to pay per the contract and everyone's legal expenses too. I started a new company doing mostly custom work, and we slowly built the company where nearly all of my old employees were working for me again. One notable employee was Mandy. She was and is my personal assistant. Sarah was finally arraigned on all of the charges. She told the police that Frank was dead from a bar fight in Rio de Janeiro. She also told the cops where the unspent part of the money was. The bonding agency recovered almost $12 million. Sarah asked for 15 minutes to talk to me before she entered a guilty plea to all charges. We were taken to a small office in the courthouse. Sarah sat and looked at me for several seconds. I said, 15 minutes? I can be silent for that long, but if you intend to be, I'm leaving. Also, don't bother to apologize. You not only hurt me and Mandy, you and the asshole almost cost over 100 people their livelihoods. I just barely managed to save the company until the bonding agency paid up. Just so you know, the bonding agency thought I was in on the scheme. That is why they took so long to pay. I know you don't want to hear it, but I am sorry. She started. Frank and I were lovers for the entire time I worked for you until he died. I did fall in love with you, but we had this plan right from the start. We knew that with your drive and intelligence that you would take the company places. She continued. Frank became a different person when we left the country. He became an abusive drunk and a serial cheater. I just wanted you to understand that I cared for you, but it was always about the money. With that, she got up and was escorted to the courtroom where she was sentenced to 10 to 15 years for the attempted murder, 5 to 10 years for bail jumping, and 15 to 25 years for the embezzlement. All sentences were to be served consecutively. She was going to die in prison or be at least 70 before she was eligible for parole. Mandy had blossomed with Frank's leaving the scene. She finally took my advice and saw a therapist. She gained a lot of self-esteem, and we finally stopped playing brother and sister. About 5 years after Frank and Sarah left, we got married. Our 10-year anniversary is coming up this year, and we are going to Hawaii. Mandy wanted kids, but we found out I was sterile. Seems one of the punches Frank delivered was to my testicles, and it ruptured them. We decided to adopt, and one of the people from work had a niece who had lost her parents. Julie was 7 when we adopted her, and like Mandy of old, she was subdued until we told her she was now part of our family. We are coming up to 10 years together with a 14-year-old daughter. She is looking forward to Hawaii. Life is good. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.